posted?
Yes, it was.
Excellent, thank you very much. Second item under general business is opportunity for citizens to speak. Is there anybody who would like to come and address the committee?
I think everyone's related to agendized items. So I think.
Excellent. Moving on to the next order of business, which would be action items. First action item is approval of minutes from the October meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion, questions, concerns? None, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Next up, under action items, is approval of vouchers. Questions?
Yes, there were
Yes.
two, and I apologize. I will
It's all right.
email the responses. The first question was for South Student Activity Account Voucher 12587, payable to the School District of Waukesha for $3,300. And the question was, what is it for? It was a 16-part entry with no explanation. Every month, the School District of Waukesha bills back the activity accounts because there's certain things that they cannot pay for out of their activity accounts, mainly anything having to do with a person that would get a W-2 or a 1099, because we don't want W-2s coming out from all over the district. We want one consolidated. So let's say they hire someone to come in and give us a lecture to the football team or a class, and we want to pay them. If it's a contracted service, they might get a 1099 or not. If they get something from each school, it might not add up to enough to give a 1099 when in reality they should get one because it's across the entire district. And then the other thing is P cards. The athletic directors all have P cards, and those automatically get paid out of the district account, and they have to pay us back. So in this particular instance, this was a reimbursement to the district for P card purchases at South for the months of July and August. That makes sense? Any questions on that?
Mr. Como?
Yeah, what's the 1099 threshold? Is it 750, 600, somewhere?
600.
Okay. Thank you.
For us, 600 for us, yeah.
Okay.
Different thresholds depending on the business that is providing it.
Any other questions on that item? No?
Okay, then we have one more voucher question. Voucher 331498, Paul Davis Restoration for $400,000. The question was, is this for the final Summit View bill for the damage, or was there other claims? This was the final payment for Paul Davis for the Summit View damage. Total, we paid $800,000 to Paul Davis and another $43,000 for things we had to purchase to replace ourselves. And we received enough money from EMC to cover things other than our deductible.
Okay.
And that's it for the voucher
Okay.
questions.
Any other questions pertaining to the vouchers? Anything? All right, we're looking for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
I second it.
Thank you very much. No more questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Excellent. Moving on to the information items. First one up is the monthly budget update.
Okay, well, with the approval of the budget last month, everything's up and running in Skyward. So the reports are accurate on what we're receiving. Just to kind of go through some of the highlights. Our local sources were mainly the interest, student fees, and textbook fees that we collected in October. We're running slightly ahead of the last year in our collections of those items for this year. We did receive going back down to federal sources, we received a Title I payment for a claim that we put in. And other revenues, part of it is the insurance, the claim for Summit View. So we've collected all of that money. Overall, we're at 6.1% of our expected revenues, and that really compares closely to where we are normally at this time of year. For our expenses, our salaries and benefits are right on track with where we expect them to be. It's showing a little low because our early retirement hasn't been recorded in Skyward yet, but otherwise it's right where we expect it to be. Purchase services, our we spent 1.9 million on purchase services in October, which brings us up to 19% of our budget. Some of the bigger things are personal services. That was a lot of smaller projects that we had. No real major purchases under there, but electricity and tuition were the other two large hitters in October. Not abnormal to have those items this time of year. Non-capital sources, supplies, textbooks, those sort of things. Capital objects, the main one was a new truck, Ford F-350 for $38,000. We had no debt retirement. Insurance was paying for the Paul Davis voucher that we've already talked about. No transfers, no others. Overall, for our general fund, we're at 17.83% of our overall budget, which is pretty on track with where we normally are this time of year. For Fund 27, we just received a flow-through in preschool claim payments for our revenues. Those are the only revenues, which is normal, again, for this time of year. Expenses, salary and benefits are really the main expenditures this time of year for special education, and as with general fund, where we expect to be. We've added Fund 43 to talk about, and Fund 43, our only source of revenue until we do our final draw on the remaining 15 million is interest, and we had $52,000 in interest. For our expenditures, our main two were paying Findorf and Bray, the two companies that we work with mostly on the referendum projects. We've looked at our spending to make sure that we're going to be in line with our spend down on Fund 43, which is important because there's penalties if we don't spend the money by a certain amount of time. And within the first 6 months, we have a target we have to hit, and we're right there. So that won't be an issue. We have spent enough money on our referendum projects so far to be in line with the spend down. Any questions on those? Otherwise, we'll look at the health insurance.
Mr. Como?
If we weren't in line with the spend down, what is the penalty? Is it a percentage? Is it?
I believe it's a percentage, is it not?
Yeah, there's a calculation. The IRS will provide you do an estimate yourself. Interest earned, and then it's a percentage of that.
Turn your mic on.
PMA will calculate an estimate for us. It's tends to be a self-report, so we would send our estimate to IRS saying, we think we're here, and then we'd wait for a response. And I'm assuming, we don't have much fear of this being an issue at this point. Next summer, it'll be, the 1 year mark is June 13th. We'll just be starting those summer projects. We won't be into them, so we might have an issue there, but even that, we think we should be okay as well, so.
So is it calculated on a per year basis, or?
There's benchmarks,
or is it-
6 months out, 1 year out. I think it goes out to 2 years out, and then after that, we have to spend the money within 3. So there's some set benchmarks in the IRS regs that you're required to hit.
Okay, and your office is keeping track of that? Or is it PMA, or PMA, both of you guys together?
Yeah,
or-
we're working together, and we
Okay.
provide them the data, and they remind us, we were just talking about this morning that,
Yeah, because that's not top of head, I'm sure. We don't have referendums
No,
all
you
the
don't.
time, so you know.
no, you don't think of that very often, but we have it on our calendars, and PMA's emailing us, where are you at?
Okay.
And we send them our expenditures to date. So this December one, I think we have 200,000.
About 250 left to spend between now and end of December, and that won't be an issue.
We'll get one more draw from Bray and Findorf prior to that, so it shouldn't be an issue at all.
Questions on that? Otherwise, we can take a look. We have 2 items. The tax collection update is in here. Obviously, we won't start collecting on this until January, but I included the breakdown so you can see what is coming from every community to bring our levy total of 86 million. And on the very last page is the health insurance. And boy, I don't even want to say this out loud, but knock on wood, our experience has been really good so far this year. So we haven't had some of the heavy hitting claims we've had in the past. So that's always really helpful for our balance on being self-funded for insurance.
I should add that our consultants fall into this too, where they'll say your claims are running really great, but you still have an 8% health insurance trend out there that you're fighting. So even great claims can generate a 5 to 10% increase for next year's funding rates just because the cost of doing business is that much more expensive. So not to ruin the good news so far, but it's the reality we live in.
Mr. Como?
Yeah, it looks like August is always one of those months where we have high claims.
Correct.
And we were in the red by a lot in that month, but we bounced back quite well in September and October. And I think it's just people are putting their nose to the grindstone and don't even take time to worry about, what's wrong with them. So I think that's just kind of how teachers and principals and workers work. They're just off in the school year and trying to take care of business. So I'm glad that we recovered, though, and bounced back there.
And we're fortunate that people are apparently staying healthier than last year.
Right.
With some-
Through today.
I think that's
Through
probably
today,
that's a great
right?
observation.
Everything I
Yeah,
should say
that's a
is-
great observation.
And next month, we'll be having I was going to do it this month, but with the referendum, I wanted to leave as much time in the night for us to cover any questions you'd have on the projects. But next month, we'll have a full report on the health insurance and how the self-funding works and how we come up with, we talk about premiums often, but actually we have a funding rate because we don't have an insurance company sending us a premium. We drive it off of our claims because we're self-funded. And then we'll talk about designation of fund balance and what that level should be. I'll have it agendized if we do want to take action on reserving more of our fund balance for that purpose. But kind of a complete, this is what we do, this is why we do it, this is where we are report because it's obviously a sizable part of our operation. So.
Thing I wanted to ask, we also are now self-funded in dental, and we haven't really done any reporting on that. I don't know if that's something, we have a limited risk with that. We know exactly how much in claims will be the max that we pay out because each employee has a max. So
Yeah.
it isn't the risk that we have with health insurance. It's
Yeah,
much
we could add that.
simpler, but I'm happy to add that if you'd like to look at what our fund balance is for dental and what our experience has been. Last year was the first year that we went self-funded with dental, and we had a very positive year.
Dental's a no-brainer for self-funding, especially our size.
Right.
Because you're capped at so much per
Per person.
person per year, so the worst-case scenario.
Como?
I never mind more details. So, but my question was dealing with the stop-loss premium. If you take a peek, there's a big jump between September and October.
That's because our experience last year was so bad, and we hit into that insurance quite a bit last year.
Okay, and so are we with the same company, or we didn't change companies? I didn't know if that was.
We marketed the plan. I think we ended up staying with the vendor we had,
Okay,
but we can confirm that.
so that was claims driven then.
Yeah, and
All right.
that jump, our plan year is September 1 through August 31st, so that's when you would see that jump occur.
Okay. But there wasn't an increase in the fees along with that, or in fees in terms of inflationary increase, or their administrative fees for
No, it was
that?
it was a claims-based adjustment because
Okay.
we had several claims last year, large claims that I forget how many, but it wasn't
Quite a few.
a good year
So
for
is the
that.
whole premium driven off of claims then?
I mean, UHC has overhead. We rent their network. They process our claims. So you have an admin fee is
Okay.
paying for those professional
I thought
services.
there was some sort of
Yep.
base.
But the bulk of our expenditures, and we'll go over this next month, that's a good question, is our claims really drive, I mean, like any health plan,
Right.
your claims really drive it. It's not the 6% or 8% admin fee. But we can go through that. And last year, we didn't have a great year. And they say 2 out of 5 years, you probably don't have great years.
And
on
to be
average.
clear, Stop Loss is a different company, it's not UHC.
Yeah.
Stop Loss is being insured by a separate company.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, just so I'm clear, the stop loss, that's like reinsurance, it's our fail-safe?
Correct. If we
Okay.
get claims over $300,000 in total for a specific person in a specific plan year,
Right.
they will pay above and beyond the
Okay, because I think you and I
300,000.
spoke about that before, and that's what that is. Okay. And regarding the dental, I'd like to see it. I think it'd be informative.
Yeah.
So
Pretty boring, but I'll be happy to share it.
none of this is too exciting.
I just realized we really haven't talked much about self-insured dental since we moved to it.
Kinda forget about
Because
it.
it has been pretty smooth running, but I'm happy to share where we're at this year, where we started, and, okay, I'll add that. Any other questions? Otherwise, that sums up my monthly budget update.
Excellent. All righty. Next up is the referendum project update.
Yeah, last month, Bray and Findorf and Matt and Kate are here again tonight to answer any questions that might come up. We went through kind of the structure, or the schedule we were looking at, and there, if you two want to come up to the table, we'll need another chair. But obviously, the potential for us utilizing Blair for the Butler, next year's Butler sixth graders, had a lot of questions tied to that, and that came, I think, more from the board conversation and the committee conversation. So Jason and Jeff are here to walk you through. We kind of hit some of the common questions we're getting. I got more questions today that will be, actually, I think we're prepared to answer most of these as well. And just kind of walk you through, and I asked Bray and Findorf to be here again. If you had any questions about, well, why are we doing this? And then Joe's here to answer any instructional questions you might have related to the services we're going to provide at Blair and how we're going to make this all, not only the services are we going to provide at Blair, but also with all that going on in Butler, how are we going to offer the services we leave at Butler? So I'll turn it over to Jason to walk you through, and we're all here to make the committee as comfortable as possible with that, that decision. It's not an action item, but and then to ask, do you want us to do the same type of presentation or have the same panel here on Wednesday night for the full board to have a chance to do a Q&A? So I'll turn it over to Jason, and then we'll let questions and answers drive the rest of it.
Thank you. So, with the renovations coming up, one of the main concerns is we're going to be losing 6 to 10 classrooms over the course of the school year for next year. So with that, it's what happens to those students. We don't have some extra space that we can transfer into classrooms, maybe 1 or 2 classrooms, but that's really about it. I know like at Horning, using of the gym is one of the options. We use both of our gyms to the fullest extent. We have anywhere from 3 to 4 sections of Phi-Ed run every period of the day. So that, unfortunately, that's not one of those options that we can tap into. But so this is really the main purpose of why we're even having this discussion. So we came up with some different type of possible solutions. One of them being having 6 to 10 trailers out on the school grounds, classroom trailers out in the school grounds. One of it is relocating to Blair, being that it's an open building 2 blocks away. The other conversation was doing construction over summers and breaks only, which would extend this construction, for another summer or 2 down that. The third conversation there didn't go very far because the cost of that would my understanding would drastically eat into the referendum money. As you're extending that time frame, costs go up. Set up and clean up at the beginning and the end of summers and breaks and all that stuff, that just jumps those costs up substantially. So really looking at number 1 and number 2. So then we looked at is what are the pros and cons, what are the pros for each of those areas? So the classroom trailers, we get all students on one campus, all the supports all on one campus. Limited, I wouldn't say, on here I have no teacher travel necessary. That's beyond what we normally have. So we do currently have some teacher travel, but this is saying no additional teacher travel would go. Additional loss of parking and traffic pattern. So we're going to be, with this construction, we're losing a lot of parking. And so we're going to have a lot of staff parking on the streets and so forth. That's, that was a component. So relocation of Blair, some of the pieces is not, the number one piece was a safer environment. I brought this up with with Butler's Principal Advisory Council back in October, beginning of October. And one of their number one question is about the, in the trailers, how are you going to protect students if something happens? And they ask questions like, how does that, if students have to move from a trailer to trailer or trailer to building, what does that look like? And so I gave them a few, I said, I'm kind of new to this, and I said, if I were to design this, I would think that we're designing some temporary, hallways or something, but I don't know. But even with those temporary structures, it's not creating a safe environment. And kids, when kids come in and out of these trailers, especially at different parts of the school, the different parts of the year, like today, example, are they having to go out in the elements kind of piece? So that was one of our groups, one of their main concerns. And having the relocation to Blair, it would be the same as what we have set up last year at Blair. All classrooms would be indoors, less disruptions due to construction movement of classrooms. That will be one of the things at Butler is there'll be a lot of shift of, we get these classrooms finished, now we'll move teachers to the group that got finished, and then we're going to start doing other ones. When you're tight, you don't have a lot of flexibility, so you're going to have more students and staff affected. And then more cost efficient to move to Blair. Darren, do you a rough estimate on costs of trailers?
Yeah, we've in running all the utilities and everything out there, we're figuring $500,000 to $750,000 for the year of costs. And I think the traffic pattern is another one that I guess I didn't give a lot of thought of on the front end of this conversation. But when you're adding that many, picture mobile homes essentially being laid out there on top of a construction area, that would have a significant impact of what we're looking at for traffic pattern at Butler during the 2021 school year.
So, again, one of the questions that our Principal Advisory Council brought up was security. It would be very similar to what we have now at Butler. Currently, or what they had last year at Blair, very similar setup. All doors would be locked. We have that capability now. Cameras throughout the building. Again, required buzz system where a camera's operating, which I know there's many buildings that we have that current system, especially at, and I can speak to just Butler. We have that current system, and all visitors would still be run through the Raptor system. So I would say it wouldn't be much different than what we currently have set up at Butler currently.
The one thing I'd add to that is we currently have a full-time SRO officer at Butler, and we haven't talked to the police department, but I'm sure they'd be willing to have that officer visit all of the Butler kids, even though one grade would be at Blair.
The question was, some of these questions I'm generating, and some of these ideas are from our Principal Advisory Council. Why the sixth graders? The big thing was the students haven't been into Butler yet, so you're not taking them away from anything particular. They don't know what they don't have at this moment. And the biggest impact was that we were looking at electives, as most of our sixth grade electives could be housed there. Where if you get into seventh and eighth grade, now you're looking at family consumer science and stuff like tech ed. Now we're talking major equipment pieces that we wouldn't be able to have at Blair. All students would be able to, all the sixth graders would stay at the same building, and then this would limit the amount of staff travel between buildings. The third bullet about all students staying at one building is we wouldn't have to worry about, well, we only offer this elective at this building or this class at this building, so you would have to travel students would have to travel between buildings throughout the school day. Sixth grade, we don't have much of that at all. Very, very limited of that, and necessary for that. Instructional model, I don't see a reason why this would have to change one bit. I look at this as just another Butler campus. The core instructional model would remain very similar to what we currently have. Now, obviously, we always make tweaks every year, so to say this would be exactly the same of what we currently have, I know that just is not true because we always make modifications. Special ed services are to remain the same, again, with minor adjustments. There's some potential of certain programming if we have some certain students that we know that might benefit more from a stable, quiet environment versus that construction and multiple changing. We may, that is an option of having that programming there. Again, parent communication is essential with that part of it. Phi-Ed, one of the difference would be, like I mentioned before, we have 3 to 4 classes that are run per period. Now, because of the gym, size of the gym, we 1 or 2, and that's something that I would like input from our Phi-Ed teachers to say, hey, what's reasonable here? If it's 1 class, we could still manage it. 2 would be more beneficial for other reasons. And then because there's no locker room, this would be Phi-Ed. There would be no Phi-Ed. Students would be changing into any kind of uniform. Music, we were able to accomplish band, orchestra, and choir, as well as general music for our 6th graders in this setting. Our electives, there will be some there's some limitations due to facilities, like, tech ed would be the biggest one. But this is where I'd go back to the teachers and say, hey, where can we make these things work? Or do we have to kind of restructure what we offer in 6th grade and so on? And right now, that's part of our discussion, whether we're going to Blair or not. So we're already starting that discussion in the next couple of weeks. So, again, staffing will be determined. Staffing will still be determined based off of the same formula that we currently have. It will be based off of one school. So even if we move students to Blair, I still foresee this. This is still Butler, Blair campus, or however we make that terminology. So our staffing would still be under the same Butler umbrella, same ratio, everything like that. We would still try to focus on students' needs first and then minimize the amount of travel staff needs. I know some staff right now we have going between 2 buildings. We'd be very conscious about, well, does this mean they have to go between 3 buildings? It's not a very cost-efficient piece for us to have staff travel between 3 buildings, but these are discussions that we have to figure out, and that's something that we're very conscious of, is making sure it's doable, it's best for students, it's doable for our staff, and it's cost-efficient piece. The one slight difference here is dual language in Quest would remain at Butler. Both of them are multi-age, so the big component is they're with, the programs. The program Quest is a program that is really geared around the multi-age. And there would be no changes they would stay put with the room what they're in, because there is no construction or minimal construction being done in that area. So that area wouldn't be affected. Some of the curriculum design that we have at Butler with a dual language is like I mentioned, is multi-age. So we'd keep that as such, and we're able to do that with the amount of classrooms that will be remaining. So we did look at that possibility as, is that going to cut into the amount of classrooms that we have available, and it will still be all right. Food service will be similar to how Blair was serviced before. So a satellite kitchen, so food catered from another site and brought to Blair. Busing, this was a huge question and a lot of discussion around busing. So we would still remain with the same busing process. The only difference is now, instead of dropping off at one location or picking up at one location, we're looking at picking up and dropping off at 2 locations. So the bus drivers would have the same bus route. When they come, instead of just dropping off at Butler, so in the morning, they would drop off at Blair, whatever students, and then 7th and 8th graders would then they drop off at Butler. And then in the afternoon, they pick up Blair first, and then they would drop off at Butler. The main reason for Blair first is, and this is where you get multiple people talking about this, is our extracurricular activities, is students that want to participate in extracurricular activities, and we'd house those all at Butler, is that students can hop on the bus in the afternoon, no matter who they are, whether they ride the bus or not, and they can then come to Butler. We can use those same buses. We don't have to use any more buses. Use those same buses then to transport them to Butler, and they'll be there on time to start for extracurricular activities. So Blair and Butler will have slightly different start and end times, just by a few, we haven't gone into the details of that, but we're talking 5-10 minutes of a different, 5 to 15 minutes, we'll say, roughly. But we haven't gone into those details, but just because of the busing, the drop-off busing, all that situation. The other part I forgot to mention too is, so we talked about the 2-mile, right now buses pick up for a 2-mile radius around Butler. We'd extend that also to Blair for the kids, for the 6th graders that would need it for Blair. So if the 2-mile radius is around, basically a 2-mile radius around both of them is whoever meets those accommodations. So if a 6th graders would currently get a bus for Butler, we'd still honor that. And then if additional students needed for Blair, we'd also offer that as well. Our library, physical library has yet to be determined on what we're doing. We're still looking at our phasing with our current library and what's doable. But one of the things that we do have within our district is we do have a program called Destiny that students can order books online and they can get that within 1 to 2 days. Most of the time it's 1 day. It all depends on when they've set that in, and all of our teachers know how to support students to do that. So if we don't have the physical library there, there's still the opportunity for students to have library books in there. The other part is all of our literacy teachers have anywhere from a 2 to 4 bookshelf library in each of the classrooms. So there's a lot of books that the students can choose from there as well. Furniture, technology, and supplies. Furniture that's needed over to Blair will be just moved from Butler to Blair. To me, this is no difference as if we had the trailers. They just move from those classrooms into the trailers. For this case, it would be moved from those classrooms to Blair. Furniture left at, and then there is some furniture that is still at Blair from this transfer that can be utilized. Some of it is elementary level, so we wouldn't necessarily use there, but some of it is, especially bookshelves and all those kind of things, those we can use, and some of the upper level classrooms like 5th grade. Technology currently used at Butler in 6th grade would be moved to Blair. So if there's any Chrome carts or any of those kind of things, if they're currently used by 6th graders, they just move with them. Supplies at Butler by 6th grade would be moved to Blair as well. And we'd follow the same protocol for if staff needs additional supplies, they follow the same process that we currently have. Parent communication, and I think this is probably the biggest essential piece is, currently I met with our principal advisory council once about this to just share that this is an idea that's come across. We've also shared with our staff that this is an idea that's come across and presented to the board. Butler will remain closest to student choice, which also includes open enrollment. We'd be talking with all 5th grade parents in Butler's attendance area. They'll receive a mailed letter notifying them of these changes. Social media information for not only Butler but also SDW. We do get some families that move from one attendance area to the other, and that do move into the Butler's attendance area every year. And then I think one of the big pieces is the parent information nights. Whether we have 1 or 2 or whatever, to answer any questions that parents have, present this information or a modified version of this information to them when necessary. So, any questions?
Yeah, I would just add what the communication that's taken place so far. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. We discussed this topic at Todd's parent advisory. Is it parent advisory group or committee?
Parent advisory group.
Which is a representative from each school. I can't tell you every elementary and every school was represented, but there were several of them, and not only someone from Butler there, but several elementary.
Schools were there.
Yeah, so it was presented there, and then people already kind of knew about it. I don't think it's a huge secret out there, but that was also a good chance to hit a broad audience. At least have that one parent rep who I'm assuming with social media now, information travels pretty quickly out there. So
Butler representative thought it was a great idea to use Blair simply to keep the day the same and to keep the kids
and the safety and security.
Out of harm's way,
So we're here to answer A lot of moving parts going on. That happens in a big district. So Rob Bennett's also was nice enough to join us in case there's questions on Les Paul. Obviously, we're not going into the instructional spaces as much there as we are at Butler and Horning. And we can answer any questions related to Horning. I think we've all sat in enough meetings together that we can probably touch base on those as well. So.
Corey?
Thank you. Mr. Sadowski, I think you mentioned that about 6 to 10 classrooms over the school year will be basically used.
Yes.
Unable
Under
for use.
construction, yeah.
Yeah. Have you been able to find out at one time how many most will be unavailable?
Not in great detail. It's kind of, I think we're still going over that phasing process.
Okay. Is that something you will be able to project?
It is, yeah. So right now, we've gone with creating a phasing plan, moving throughout the building, kind of focusing on some of the more common spaces through the summer months, and then isolating. In general, we try to isolate construction during the school year to the perimeter of the building to try to protect learning environments as best we can. With the layout of Butler, being a 3-story building, things stack a little bit more and are a little more congested, so it's a little more difficult to try to isolate that. The phasing plan and the biggest challenge there is would be the first floor, the middle floor plate of the building, with the science classrooms, and then there's perimeter classrooms around the perimeter. We basically need to recreate science classrooms continuously to keep renovations going through the school year. So the plan that we've laid out right now kind of takes half that floor plate at a time, and so all that would be done over that one school year, but only a half at a time, if that makes sense.
It does. At some point, will you be able to say, look, for the first 2 months, we'll have 2 classrooms unavailable, and then?
Yes.
I think the PM or something would be able to figure that out, or somebody
Yes,
would. Okay. All right.
last month we had some highlighted plans that probably describe it a little better than I just spoke it.
Oh,
but-
no, you're fine.
But
Okay.
yes, we're working on those details.
When do you project you'll be able to give us that information?
We plan to go to bid in January, and we would want that, a detailed phasing plan as part of those bid documents as subcontractors, so January.
Any other questions?
On your desk, I handed out, this is a sample communication, but it's the type of scheduling we eventually will have. And I think I gave you, this might be Butler's, we're doing some, we talked about before, we're doing some asbestos removal at Horning, Butler, South, and maybe this building at Christmas time. But it matches, it talks about every single classroom and what teachers are going to have to do to prepare, because they're obviously going to be a big part of all this moving, is the materials in there. So it walks them through what we're looking for from them, what types of equipment that'll be accessible for them. The next one is, and I meant to run these on color, and I botched it, so bear with me. You know, a quick example of what the hallway is going to look like, a nice summary of what to expect when you come back for second semester. So this type of planning, not that you need to know exactly, but this type of information will all be available on the front end of all these discussions. Staff and parents will know exactly what the moving parts are. This is just a small segment. This is just talking about what we're doing in December and at spring break, but it's a good, I thought a good snapshot of what to expect and what we expect from our service providers and what staff will get from us as a district. So that helps. You know, there's these section maps of where we are. So I'll scan colored copies of this and send it out to you later. But I thought it was important for you to know the planning that goes behind all this.
I'm sorry, one follow-up question. Mr. Sadowski, have you reached a determination of the 6 to 10 classrooms? Let's say architect or the construction company comes back and says, at most, we'll have 2 classrooms offline, unavailable throughout the year, no more than 2. Have you been able to reach a determination, okay, 2 would be acceptable, or 1, or is none of them?
The 2 was not even close to being, it was kind of like a whole side of the building.
Okay.
So like at least 2 floors, which would be a minimal of 6. I think 6 was the minimal
Okay.
amount. So that, to me, 6 was not even something I could even, right now, we're going to be losing, so starting in the spring, we're going to be losing 4, but they're going to add 2. So I'd be losing 2, and it's going to be, I haven't figured that part out yet.
Okay.
So it, just by us losing 2 is going to be, it's going to be tough.
So is the number 2 then? You cannot absorb any?
I haven't gone in great detail of what I could absorb.
Okay.
I just know that right now, the definite planning for 2 at the end of the school year right now is going to be tough.
And how many kids are you had 900 and, what's the,
Currently, we have 870, just around 870 students.
so they have a lot more kids at Butler than we have at either of our other sites, I
Correct.
believe. Certainly Les Paul is not near that number right now.
When you also look at the scope of the work that we're going to be doing at Horning, while it's not Butler, at Horning, we're looking at trying to accomplish 4 classrooms at a time. So 4 classrooms would be offline. And when you looked at taking approximately a month to get through those 4 classrooms, you're going to have just enough time over the course of that school year to get around the building and get all of those classrooms renovated and try to stay on schedule for construction. Butler is a larger and more complicated school. So when you start thinking about how many classrooms would have to be offline, that 6 to 10 is a pretty accurate representation without having an exact construction schedule, because you are looking at doing one floor and then the other. You're trying to accommodate water, gas, and the other things that are inside some of those science labs. So there is it's going to be intrusive into Butler even more so than it is at Horning, and we think we have a pretty good plan put in place at Horning.
6 to 10 over the whole year, though. We're not
No,
talking
no,
6
no,
off the
6
10.
at a time.
Oh, at a time.
At a
Oh, I
time.
thought it was 6 to 10 over the whole
No.
year.
No, at a time.
Yeah.
Oh,
There'll always be 6 to 10 at a time, but it'll be a different 6 and 10 throughout the
that's
year.
the struggle is losing 6 class, because what'll happen is they'll finish let's say it's 6.
okay.
They'll finish 6 on the north side of the building. Well, then I got to move everyone from the south side of the building to the north side of the building, and then they're going to work on 6 on the south side of the building.
My apologies. My notes.
No,
said
that's-
6 to 10
that's
classrooms
quite
on the
all right.
switch, so it's my fault.
A lot of
Okay.
information here.
Never mind. All right.
Matt, do you want to touch on the HVAC or the stacking and some of the
Yeah,
complexity that
and one
Butler
thing-
offers?
Is this in the packet for today's meeting, or these are,
Not as
these
pretty.
were some of the things we had last
As
month?
pretty as that, but we have it.
And this
Times
just
are
kind of
tight.
describes that 6 to 10 classroom layout that we talked, and then yes, so as I describe it on the middle floor, first floor, the science classrooms are in the center. We would take 2 of those science classrooms, leaving 2 operational.
Sent in the packet.
And
Presented
then
it last
perimeter classrooms, renovate that, and there's about 6 classrooms on that side, and then flip-flop. So students would move into newly renovated spaces while we finish the other. So the amount of work that's being put in place over the school year is, I guess 12 to 20, at the very least. But 6 to 10 at a time to maintain the curriculum.
Okay, thank you.
To Darren's question on the HVAC design and kind of one of the other factors that's driving this, the HVAC replacement is nearly a complete replacement at Butler. It is served by new rooftop units. So through the first phases of work, we would be putting the new rooftop units in to serve lower floors to be able to pull onto them later. So that was kind of what drove the construction schedule too, to start up near the top of the building with some of the renovated areas there and then work down, as opposed to Horning, where we were able, with only being a 2-story building, focus on the center of the building and then move away from the learning environments during the school year.
Is Butler going to be completely done with rooftops?
Is there one
I think
interior?
there's one interior.
One
Oh, there is
interior.
one
and
trailer,
another.
okay.
Part of it's the size of the existing mechanical spaces
Yep.
and the size of rooftop units, the size of units in general.
Right.
Adding cooling coils and some other things, some we're able to accomplish in the interior existing spaces.
Right. Is that a problem for putting that on the roof? Do you have to up the,
Structural reinforcement.
Yes.
And some screening.
okay.
Yep.
So I figured.
So we have our structural engineer.
Yep.
Luckily, the Waffles Lab, the construction
Okay.
of the buildings can accommodate it.
If you want to talk about what we can put on the roofs and restrictions, we can have Rob come up and we can talk about Les Paul's structure. That's a different,
Les Paul's not getting any rooftop units. They are, but on the additions and the newer
Right.
portions,
Yeah.
Worthington will be getting no
Yeah.
rooftop units.
Okay. Mr. Como?
I'm feeling pretty fortunate that we have Blair available to help us with this. That saves a significant amount of money to be able to, $500,000 to $750,000 is a lot of money. First of all, Jeff, I really like your patriotic tie.
Thank
Excellent
you.
choice. I wanted to get a feeling for the shared leadership. Jason, you had mentioned that Jeff was going to be in charge at Blair, and what concerns do you have? What are the things that you guys are working on? And if you could spill that over into some of the other shared resources, such as the psychologists, the sociologists, the counselors, librarian, if you could kind of give us a sense of what your discussions have been so far, I'd appreciate it.
I'll let you,
Sure.
share leadership.
So
here.
it's actually been really nice, this being my 4th year at Butler. Jason and I have really gotten a chance to develop our shared leadership, not only internally with each other, but also with our staff in general. And we communicate our roles and responsibilities out to staff at the beginning of every year. And I would see this moving forward no differently, especially with Jason's concept of, like, this really is one campus, just 2 sites. And so not only our office team, we really have that dynamic. And that's one of the reasons why I liked secondary administration, is that it really is a team approach for everything. Even in our current work, we're in one building, but we're constantly communicating. In 2 buildings, we're 2 blocks away and we're a phone call away. So it would really still fall into that same model. Really the only barrier here is that we have 2 blocks separating us, but in terms of the dynamics of our relationship and how the buildings operate, it would be one campus.
Okay.
Student services, that's something that we've already talked to them, and there's, we'd at least provide one full-time position at the Blair campus. What that looks like beyond that, that's still in discussion with our student services, because and that'll be an ongoing probably until the day we start, is what I'm assuming. As far as, and that, when I say student services, that also includes social worker and school psych. So currently we have 2 counselors, a social worker and a school psych. So we'll look at them and say, how can we best support both buildings with the 4 people that we currently have? Darren spoke about our SRO, and we haven't got to that level just yet. But that will also be in discussion. Right now, Officer Katie's been an awesome addition to our school, more beyond than I even fathomed when we got it. So I think
The mayor's smiling in back of you.
So it's I see her her being a resource for both, obviously for both buildings. Because some of the details of a lot of this stuff we haven't gone deep into, waiting for approval and waiting for some of the questions to be generated as well is how we're going to provide. But it's going to be kind of a consistent conversation with different groups and different people. I know to say that this will be 100% cost neutral, that is our goal. But I think that there's going to be some additional people that might be put into place here. But we're minimizing that as much as possible.
Have you talked on health room at all?
And that's one of the positions. But, and that's one of the things we talked about is how can we double up with, actually, I'll let you talk about it.
So we talked a little bit about the current structure that we have and the needs that we would have at Blair in terms of our current secretarial positions. If we're really talking about being one campus, they would have the same responsibilities that they currently do, just shared over 2 buildings. And then so looking at, we wouldn't need to duplicate that model in our new building, but could we maximize somebody who really is there to assist the day-to-day, answer the door, but then could also double up with assisting in the health room as needed. And then knowing that our secretarial staff is still over at main campus doing all the things that they would for Butler currently.
And this might be a question for Darren. Is First Student charging us any extra for that second stop, or it's Joe? I'm sorry, it's Joe.
No problem. No, they're able to.
I thought we might have to talk after the meeting, Joe.
Again, with the 2-tiered busing system that we have, this stop and pickup fits within the first morning tier and then the first afternoon tier. So it's just an additional stop. We have worked it out with them. It's no additional cost. The only thing that would shift cost would be if we had to add buses because we have more riders next year, and that would generally mean we have more kids in our district. So we're not looking at any additional costs with this.
Okay. Are there any other, I know, I really liked that safety is at the center of everything. And are there any safety concerns that you have right now that we haven't talked through or we need to spend some more time on? Anything that's a yellow flag?
I think, we have said that the Butler camp or the Blair campus would be the same as it was last year, and in years past. We do have the option of taking a look at where do we bring people into the building. There's a secure front area there where there's a locking mechanism. There's door strikes that we installed a couple of years back. We also have the ability for one school year to direct everybody around to the back of the school, which brings them into the school closer to the school office. And we're going to take a look at those plans as we go forward. But from a site perspective, Blair is as secure as Butler is right now. Going into next school year, there is no additional, there's not going to be construction work going on. So the perimeter of the building will be locked. It will be monitored as it is at our other schools. Will it have that secure entranceway that we've created at our elementary locations? Not yet, but nor will Butler during this time period.
Yeah, and we don't have that secure entrance sequence yet at all of our elementaries either. Keep that. We haven't had a lot. We accomplished a lot this summer, but we still have 3 that still have the same sequence that Butler and Horning and Les Paul have right now.
Thank you.
Just briefly, I'm on record, I think, at last full board meeting of saying I don't like the idea of sending rising sixth graders to Blair as opposed to Butler. I said the only way I'd be changing my mind is if there's overwhelming financial reasons to do it and safety reasons. And I learned, I think, within about 2 minutes of saying that at the board meeting, that there are overwhelming safety concerns and financial reasons. So I've come around on it. I still don't like the idea. I still wish it didn't have to happen, especially since I have a daughter who's going to be going to Blair, it sounds like. I guess, let me tell you something you already know. Students going from 5th grade to middle school, they've been looking forward to that for a long time. And I see you nodding your head, so I know you know this. I'm just saying it because I like to talk. The identity between the two campuses, please do everything you guys can to make sure that they feel part of that team. And I know you will. So it's just something I think is important.
One of the things that I would add that was brought up to us by some staff in our site council meeting is one staff member in particular said this is a great opportunity for us as a Butler community to kind of relaunch, because with 6th graders potentially being at Blair next year and then coming into the Butler main campus as 7th graders when we're also introducing new 6th graders, 2/3 of our building are brand new to that building, and it's a great opportunity for us to relaunch our entire Butler community at that time.
Good.
In a newly branded, newly renovated facility, so.
And Corey, I appreciate you saying that, because that's probably one of the heaviest thing that we feel is like, we know that these kids are looking forward to, like, I can't wait to get out of 5th grade so I can get to the middle school. And we know that. We got the same thing with 8th graders going to high school.
Yeah.
So it does kind of, bother us. It bothers us that we can't provide that. But when we look at what our options are, it's like, this is what we really feel is our best option.
You don't want their experience in 6th grade to be mobile classrooms, and we can't provide that.
I agree.
That same experience anyways. So I think we've all thought that Blair. I mean, luckily we have that option, and I think also we can do some things to make it a better year for the kids too. Whether it's free T-shirts on the first day of school and ice cream might get us further. I don't know, but we'll make those steps happen to grease the wheels.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're renovating a house or anything like that, and you're, especially a kitchen, and you're washing dishes in the bathtub and laundry room sink and things like that, I mean, that's life, and you have to go through it. But like, if you can put pictures up of the finished product, to just kind of give them hope and be like, I'm going to be going to the best looking school. I mean, not to put any others down, but those pictures of what it's going to look like when it's done are something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. So, like with the T-shirts, yes, I could survive construction or whatever it is. Just for them to realize, yeah, they're going to be going through this, but the end product is going to be worth it.
Yeah, we can provide some boards that have the renderings and have walk through some of the presentation things that we have already to help them get excited for it. Like you said, it's a short-term thing, but it's a long-term
No.
excitement to build on. And so 2/3 of the kids will get to go there first, so that'll be special for them too.
Jason wasn't there and Jeff wasn't there this morning, but we even talked about during the year bringing the sixth graders over to Butler to tour the construction and really make them part of, that vision of what's happening. It's also important to point out that parents at Horning and Les Paul, starting April 15th or so, Les Paul's cafeteria is going to be a gym served out of a classroom. I mean, every parent in that age group is being impacted over the next 15 months or 18 months or whatever it is. So Butler sixth grade is not alone in this change, and it's going to be nice when it's all said and done. So we just have to get through one school year.
I don't stop talking. What about giving the kids some sort of ownership? The kids are going to be a player. Maybe they can vote on the color of something, or I don't know. I'm digging way too deep.
One of the things that part of this process and not part of this process, we still have to talk about it, is the rebranding of Butler. And so right now we have a lot of different Butler logos out there and all that kind of stuff. And we're looking at taking this opportunity to look at rebranding and providing one. What is Butler? When you see this logo, this means Butler Middle School in Waukesha. And one of our phases of that is giving students choice in that opportunity. We've also talked about different teachers and staff members have mentioned different things about what they've seen in or talking to their peers in other districts. Stuff like staff or students have signed walls that are either going to be something's going to be built over it, or it's going to be torn down, where students can write a message on there. So there's a lot of different things that we can do to create some different type of ownership, or they're part of the process, or those kind of things. We're just starting to generate those ideas, and ironically, just this last week, a lot of these started to come up because that was now our kind of focus is how can we get the kids as part of this, and now having those fifth graders as part of this as well, or the current fifth graders as part of this as well.
And actually, at our construction team meeting, we meet every other Monday, and have been and will be for quite some time. We have some branding that will go on in the hallways, where full mural type displays, and part of it could be the new bulldog or whatever. But some of them are places where the kid, phrase, you can do whatever you want now with murals, and it can be a temporary thing you can put on the wall and they look. And we talked about having the student council, not just because of the Butler-Blair situation, but at all the schools, getting the kids involved in what that looks like and what key phrases should be on there, and what, at Les Paul, we have a lot of history in the city. We want to bring some of that history to the campus as well. So we just talked about that 11 hours ago or so. So I think there's certainly avenues for that to occur.
Are we going to have to add custodial staff?
That's a good question. Tim would love to.
I bet you.
I don't know. My approach to that is I have 6 or 10 classrooms that all next year that I don't have to clean at Butler.
Right.
So perfect world, which doesn't exist,
Right.
that cleaning could be transitioned over to Blair. Now, whether we run 2 shifts at Blair and all that, we still have to iron that out.
Any other questions?
You have less to clean at Butler, but you are also cleaning a construction school, so
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
have to factor that in.
I just had one thought. My uncle builds houses, and they always hide something in the walls as they're building it, and just maybe like some type of whoever does those renovations, and just something like a time capsule, or something where they could all participate and put a little note in there, like each month, have it like be the month where they get to do something, and you're keeping them in the loop with all the construction so that they really feel part of it, but maybe burying something in the wall somewhere where someone will find it someday.
Keeping some of these ideas.
Bindorf and Bray have done a lot of these, and they have a lot of ideas that we can whether it's, I saw Pewaukee just last week or something was signing I don't know if that was the gym floor or, so there's a lot of things you can do to involve and
Yeah,
kind
as
of
we get
encapsulate
closer,
things.
some of our folks in education that specialize in the education and kind of the marketing side of it too can give you some of those ideas. We've done brick layings where kids can actually come out and put a brick in the wall. So they get a chance to say that they built their school. Time capsules are a great one. Beam signings, we usually have a beam out that is maybe the highest one in the gym, and before that gets set, everybody gets a chance to sign it. So some of those great things that as we get closer to construction, we'll certainly include, and all the more important from what you hear tonight, that we make sure the Blair students, next year's Blair students are incorporated in that.
Excellent. Anything else?
Just for Wednesday night, what should we plan for? We had the full presentation, and Corey, I'll send you the PowerPoint that we shared last month here. We can do all that and the Blair one, or we can just kind of we're here to answer any questions. We'll present the Blair. I think this, what Jason and Jeff put together was really a good summary. So what do you think the
Mr.
rest of the
President,
committee?
It's your meeting.
It is.
It is.
Well, I did think that there was a lot more details this time around, obviously, and you guys have thought through it a lot more. I think it would be beneficial to have you there. This is a big deal to our community. We had our questions answered tonight, but there's still 4 more board members. And we do interact with our constituents quite a lot, so I think it would be beneficial to have you there and present the same information, actually. And
Just the Blair
Yeah,
portion
yeah,
of this,
and
and
then-
open
and
it
then-
up to Q&A.
yeah.
And like I said, we got, I was forwarded a list of questions. Some of them are covered in this, so if there's some key areas within these questions I'm getting, we'll amend this PowerPoint
Majority of
presentation
them were answered in there.
and have it ready for that. Okay, so we'll plan on Wednesday night then.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your evening. All righty. Next up is the 2019-20 budget.
Well, now that the levy's been set, and we wanted to just kind of circle back and talk a little bit about some of the trends and things that we're seeing that went into the 1920 budget, and also to take a look at where we fell within some of the other districts in Waukesha County, the similar districts of size. So our first page of the presentation has our 10-year enrollment history. And you can see that, obviously, we all know we've been in declining enrollment, but it has dropped substantially. So this last year, we lost 339 ADMs, average daily membership. Now, these numbers that I've used are all from our third Friday count in September, including summer school. So just to be on the same page all the way across, those are the numbers that I used. So we dropped significantly this year, but I think the more alarming is in the 10-year total, we've lost over 1,000 students, which hopefully this will start to level off at some point, but as the decline goes on, it impacts our revenue limit. Yes.
Yeah, I think we have data that goes back even into the 70s, and I think you'll see that even back in the 70s, we were in that 12,000 range, and it'd be going up to 12,500 and 13,000, and it just kind of seems to be rolling, but I don't know if it's a bigger dip this time or not.
Yeah, my experience in my other districts, and I've only worked in 3 others, you tend to have a range that you operate within. One thing that's different in looking at history now is this count on the third Friday in September is the number of resident kids in your schools or in your district. When you looked at history, it used to be that was the number of kids you had in your schools. Now you have open enrollment out, in, vouchers, choice, open enrollments.
That's true.
So this is really a funding number. this isn't how many people we're serving necessarily in our schools. So, when Sharon goes to do our staffing, I mean, they're somewhat related. We have a lot of residents in our district that go to our schools, but it doesn't necessarily drive your expense and staffing side. So just keep that in mind. And you look at history, you didn't have 4K, you didn't have all day 5K. Those numbers go, so the trends you can
It's
see.
not all apples to apples.
But you'll see chances are you'll see a wave, but just so you know, the measurements and the impact are different today than they were a few years ago.
So do we know where those 339 kids are? Did they just graduate out and they weren't replaced? Did they open enroll? Are they at the?
Did they never exist?
Yeah, right, well, right, I know.
Well, so, I mean, we've had the high school enrollments have been dropping slightly, but you've got pressure from private charter schools and voucher schools and more, each year, a few more, not many more.
Right.
But take those vouchers or take the private charter school, and so kind of all adds up.
Okay, 'cause I just wonder if it's lack of people moving in because they're not building like they did
Yeah, I
in the
don't-
80s.
No,
I mean, I don't know, I mean.
I think it's a lot of things. I think birth rate, because we're not alone. I mean, Waukesha isn't one of 424 school districts in the state that has declining enrollment. Usually well over half do.
Right.
I'm assuming that trend is still active. But choice, now open enrollment, we make out because of eAchieve, brick and mortar, open enrollment. We have more leave than come in.
The voucher schools are a bigger impact. I would have to double check on this, but I'm pretty sure it's not counted the same as the OE numbers are. So when a student open enrolls out, we still count them in our count, and we don't count the open enrollees in. But I don't think that the voucher kids, because we don't count any private school students ever in our counts or discount them.
Yeah, and it's hard to say what the impact of private vouchers are, private school vouchers, because you don't know if those kids otherwise would have come to you.
Right.
Because if they would have gone to a private school from K through 12, we never would have counted them, we never would have known they exist. So I can't tell you, well, we have, I don't even know what the numbers are, let's say 25 kids doing private school voucher, and multiply it by $9,000 and say this is the fiscal, that's our opportunity, but what's reality? And I don't think it's 25, it's probably 10 or 5, or, because you can't guess on what families would decide. I mean, there's just no way to do
And
that.
I'm looking at it from the steady increase in the
Oh,
program
yeah.
since it started, is where my comment came from, that we have had a steady increase. Now, the good news is, from a revenue perspective, we get an exemption that equals what we pay out. So we do get to add that to the revenue limit.
Yeah,
It does.
that's net zero for us, right?
Correct.
So, in a later executive summary, we did have an enrollment study done in late 15, early 16. I call them every year and say, is there anything that's happened that would make you think that the study's no longer valid? But now we're getting to a 5th year out. I'm gonna have a study done. We'll probably have it early, maybe January, February-ish, just to see where the trends are. And really what we're looking at is where's the low point? So, and I will email you that because I have that on my to-do list on my desk, so.
Thank you.
And are we also trying to ask parents if they go out, why?
Yeah, we survey the open, we don't do it every year, the open enrollment outs, and first of all, we're surrounded by very strong school districts, that doesn't help. It's a good thing, but it doesn't help. But it's a lot of, and we had the same problem. I was in McGuanago previously, a big geographic school district. A lot of it is my kids play in Kettle Moraine's youth sports and they want to go with their friends, or maybe KM is closer to my house than West is. Some of it's, well, it's on my way to go to work to drop my kid off in Sussex or Elmbrook, or and Joe, if there's any other key areas I'm hitting on, some people just think it's a better educational opportunity, just like the people who come to us think it's a better educational opportunity. So,
It's, I And part of it is a lot of our residences are closer to other district schools. I mean, we have part of the town of Brookfield, part of the city of Pewaukee, town of Pewaukee, and in my case, I live in the city of Waukesha, and where I live, I think we might be closer to KM High School than North, travel-wise. So you've got some of that going on. Although I have noticed that when I first moved there 10 years ago, there were a lot of kids KM and CMH. Now the kids are staying for North. You have a lot more kids going to North, Butler, and Summit View than maybe 10 years ago. So, I mean, those are some positive changes.
But what about also the kids that go to then, like online schools, virtual schools, or the ones that are going to Christian schools? I mean, those are the people that I've talked to that give me reasons why they've left. Not necessarily completely a different school in the same conference, but why they've chosen not to do public education anymore, or at least a brick and mortar school, whether it was bullying, whether it was things that were taught, whether it was things that weren't allowed. Those are the ones that I hear about. So it's not just.
Yeah, I think it's a long list of reasons. It's not as simple. I mean, in my neighborhood, I live in Springdale. Pewaukee High School is a heck of a lot closer than driving all the way over to North, which there's no fast way to get to. But a lot of them are just personal family traditions. We've always gone to Catholic Memorial or a private school, a faith-based decision. It's all of those. It's all of those things.
Grandma lives in Elmbrook and she's taking care of the kids.
Yeah, my daycare. I have free daycare if I send my kids to wherever, Maguanago or
That's a
Muskego.
big one, usually for elementary. Yes, sir.
I know one of the things that Todd and I talk on quite frequently is, well, how do you keep those kids here? And, really, I think the main approach has been is to offer choice and to strengthen our offerings and our programs to our greatest abilities. And I think if you look at our district and compare it to many districts throughout the state and other states, what we offer our parents in terms of what their choices are, we have a huge amount of choice in our district. I don't think most districts have the same amount of choice that we do. And Todd, you might be able to...
Not a district of our size. I mean, you might have some smaller districts that have that, but then, of course, they're only going to have one high school typically. And so, and I think that has been very helpful in terms of people, going where they feel is the best fit. Our academies, and if you look at our academies, engineering, health, they score at the top of the state. So we do have some great programs, and if people want to get into those are available. I think with 3 high schools, there's 3 times the opportunities to participate in athletics, in plays, and the band, and all those other things. So it's just a matter of which school fits you or fits the family best, and I think that's been very helpful. And if you look at our high schools, you'd be surprised at the movement because of the programs that each specializes in.
Each high school is distinct.
Yeah.
So you have whatever fits, like you said, whatever fits your family or your.
I mean, and I athletics plays a part of that too.
Yep.
We have some schools that are really good in some sports and others that are better in other sports, and I think that's a great opportunity for parents to make that choice.
Anything else?
So the next slide shows our open enrollment revenue and expense history. And the good, on a positive note, so the blue line is our open enrollments in students we're gaining from other districts. The red line is our open enrollment out, and then the green line is our net difference between the two. And our open enrollment in continues to grow, which is great news. Unfortunately, the open enrollment out also went up a little bit this year over what we've seen. So our net, the net total is down a bit, but still quite significant, that a significant number of more students coming in than going out. positive.
And the green line's essentially what we budget. I mean, there's an expense and a revenue, but we really budget the net.
Correct.
Okay.
Questions on that? Okay, then we'll look at the next slide, which is, it's our mill rate compared to the other K through 12 schools in our district, and we are second lowest out there, which is very nice considering we just had a referendum passed and money that we're borrowing. So I think it's quite remarkable that we're at 818 compared to some of the higher ones in the high nines.
And that,
Good news.
and that 818, if you remember, includes the $4.8 million defeasance to pay down our debt more rapidly than the 10-year span. So even with that defeasance, we're still well below average in the county.
Total of about 8 years is what we're targeting with the defeasance, right?
I think we could accomplish that.
I mean, we have to vote on a portion every year, right?
Yeah, it's a year-by-year call, but if we stay at the pace we're at in year one, you could be looking at that 7 and 8 year range potentially. So now whether we're able to pull that off for 7 years in a row or not, I don't know, but we're in a very good spot right now.
That'd be great news for our constituents. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then the next slide shows that what the per member revenue limit. So this is what we're allowed to get in be combination of state aid and taxing per member. So that's where our enrollment drives the actual total that we can get in. But right now we're at, we can receive $10,003 per student, which again is second lowest in the district, in the area, compared to some of the other schools that are able to tax that a little bit higher because their revenue limit's a bit higher.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but part of this number goes back decades ago, depending upon what was happening in the early 90s and what school districts were choosing to do in the early 90s. And we were pretty conservative, didn't have a rainy day fund at the time, trying to keep costs low. And essentially, I think what happened is the districts that were being conservative were pinching the pennies, actually got penalized over the long haul. And I don't know how much is reflected in the differences, but, you should ask the question, how can there be such a difference between, us and Elmbrook? I mean, it's a significant, it's, $1,800 per student. How can that really exist? How can that even be fair? So anyways, there's some history there, and we don't need to dive into the details here, but I guess maybe the lesson to learn here is our decisions now impact future boards of education. We can't predict what those statute changes will be over time, but we need to make the best decisions we can with the information we have. And actually, you guys have done an excellent job throughout this whole budgeting process of getting us the information we need as a board so that we can make good decisions. So appreciate that very much.
Just that $1,800, and not that I'm saying we need to spend at what Elmbrook spends or have that authority,
Right.
but $1,800 times 12,000 students is $21.6 million more per year that we would have to spend or have revenue authority for. We're gonna have to spend it, but to have that option, it's a sizable shift. And Joe's right. If you would have ran this graph in 1995, the numbers at the top would be different, but the relationship between the districts and the spread between them would have been the same, because at 1 year, they just said whatever your revenue per kid was. It's like the people, if all of us got hired the same day and you got 50,000 a year and he got 100, you'd never catch up with
At the 93?
Oh, is that the logic behind
93,
the number?
94.
Yeah.
That's the logic behind the number?
It was all,
So, a snapshot.
it was the only way they could get it passed politically, because they weren't going to give the people that weren't spending a bunch more money, and they weren't going to take money away from the high spenders, so they just said, well, whatever your per pupil base is in 93, 94, and you're going to grow from there, so. And I believe the low revenue ceiling and the revenue limit goes up to, so I think McGuanago is actually going to have a big bump next year.
Oh, because they fall below this.
I think that's how, so,
There's a minimum of what you can get, and if you fall below that, you're automatically brought up to.
yeah. So I think they're going to catch up to us.
That's all that I had. Are there any overall questions or things you'd like to ask about this year's budget, now that it's in place and running?
Anything? Anybody?
I missed Sherry's intro, but we build up to the budget, then we adopt it, then we tend not to go back to it. So we wanted to at least hit on the 5 or 6 key drivers of all this. Also, the budget book, I made it nice and bright orange this year.
Yes.
There's some referendum page in there for what we've accomplished and where people can go. The debt schedules are in there, this coming year's calendar. So we've added a bunch of, it's a good thing to carry around. I know, doubt you'll read it every night, but it's a good resource too, so.
Do we have that on the website, PDF'd?
Yeah,
Will be, or is it up there now?
I think I had Amy put it on already, so, under business office.
Yeah, I sent it.
Point the constituents there. So, yeah.
Alrighty. Next order of business is discussion items. First up under that heading is budget projection assumptions.
Yeah, each year in January or February, I present a long-range budget projection, and it goes out 4 or 5 years, and really, the first year is the most accurate, like any projection. The further out you go, especially when you could have a new governor in a few years or different legislature and all the things that can occur. So I'll be still presenting that to you right after the first of the year. But before that can happen, I like to have all of us buy into the assumptions that go into it. So when I present the projection, we're not saying, well, why'd you put 5% on this? I think it should be 6 and da-da-da-da-da. So I just, on the backside of your executive summary are kind of the key drivers. A lot of them are what we just talked about in terms of the 1920 kind of recap. So in resident enrollment, I'm projecting a 2% decrease in ADM or full-time equivalent kids, however you want to phrase it. That'll be another drop of 239 students. Now, when we get that enrollment projection, we'll obviously, and throughout the calendar, we do kind of revisit the assumptions periodically, but to get us started. But I think based on the trends that we have now, the 2% drop, again, just in resident enrollment, that doesn't mean bodies in our schools. Revenue limit authority will be in the second year of a state biennial budget, so the $179 is a known number. That won't change barring some legislative act, which won't occur, most likely. So that $179 will be factored in on the front end. The open enrollment participation, the number of kids going in and out will leave flat because there's no way to project open enrollments. It's an annual decision made by hundreds of families. So we use the previous year as our guide for now. Per pupil aid, that's current legislation too. That number is known, so that's a locked-in number. Employee compensation, we've had a methodology that we've used since Act 10. I'm assuming that methodology will be approved. But one thing that's important on these assumption is it goes into the initial projection. But if we have big topic areas that we think we want to tackle, we need to talk about them early and not late in the process for us to be able to plan and react and talk about impact, advantage, disadvantages. Health insurance, I love the budget cycle where health insurance would be flat because things would get a lot easier, a lot quicker. We don't live in that world yet. So how we've handled health insurance in the past is the district will take on the first 5% of the increase. Anything above that will have to be either shifts in employee share premium or plan design. We simply budget-wise, if it came, I think last year we were looking at an 8 or 9% increase in health insurance if we did nothing. Like I said, the district took on half, and then plan design changes, mainly the HSA going away last year, contribution. We're going to take that same approach now. We'll be getting health insurance estimates for our rates around the first of the year. We start talking about that, so that that information is pretty timely, at least a projection we can work with. The rest of these are pretty, I mean, not that they're not large dollars, but in terms of scale, dental insurance, utilities, open enrollment on the expense side, again, we'll use this year's utilization or participation. Tax rate and that, I really don't get into tax rate when we're building the budget. Usually January through April, it's more of a, can we pay our bills conversation. Of all the revenue authority we have, what can we cover in terms of expenditures? And then we transition after that into taxes and aid, and what's that breakout of our revenue authority, and where do we think will come out. I continue to think that based on our declining resident enrollment that we won't have many tax issues, because our revenue limit authority is decreasing every year because we have fewer kids. So our ability to tax is reduced. There's also a budgeted increase statewide in equalization aid that helps bring the levy and rate down even further. So I don't forecast us having a real tax rate issue next year. But maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see what would make that happen. So those are and there's obviously a lot more things that go into building a budget, but these are the key drivers, and to stress that if there's big topics out there, we issue contracts on May 1st to our teaching staff, and our flexibility after that to make major changes is pretty slim. So I'll just throw that out there, and then I can answer any questions you have. The next agenda item really isn't an agenda item, it's the actual calendar. It's not etched in stone, but it just gives us a guide of, okay, some key benchmarks to be thinking of. As I said, on May 1st, we'll be issuing teacher contracts. In, I guess, late spring, early summer, we'll be talking employee compensation. We get into July, we'll be presenting a preliminary budget to this committee, unless there's some major issues earlier than that we identify. In August, you'll approve the budget that will be sent to the budget hearing. I have it tentatively set at our September board meeting, which has been the case for, we have a quick budget meeting right before that. And then we get into October when all the final state numbers come rolling in. So, but again, if any of these topics I covered, we see major shifts, we need to, I think, act more promptly to apply them well. So, any questions on, and I know I just did 2 agenda items in one swoop, but they're all kind of blended.
Thank
Thank you, sir. Just real quick, with respect to trying to move along our agreements with our various labor groups, or just employee groups, I should say now, which includes one labor group. I think it would be really good to try and have things done sooner than later. This last year we went a little long, and that just makes it tougher to get that year solidified. And so, I think you had mentioned we try to get those things done early in the summer. I'm thinking we should try and shoot more for spring. And so I don't know if that requires us to start our discussions earlier than what we have in the past, but that would be my preference.
Yeah, I think our flexibility to do that is greater this year because we're in the second year of a state budget. Last year, I think all the groups were kind of waiting to see, you had a new governor, waiting to see what was going to come of having a new governor, and the state budget wasn't signed until the first week of July or maybe the second week of July. So I think that caused a delay. Ideally, in our office, I know we'd like to have everything done before people leave for school, because that way we're not looking at back pay. We're not looking at all, and quite honestly, we have one labor group, but the other groups, the board has authority to make those decisions. But I think that's a shared, I don't want to speak for our labor group, our teacher group out there, but I think that in conversations with their leadership in the past, they like knowing what they're coming back to as well. rather than coming back and we're scrambling to get things put together before the school year. So I think that's very possible, and we can certainly strive to hit that goal.
What goes into the tuition? Is that just payments that we make to any entity for educational services? Is that what
The
tuition?
biggest part of tuition now is special ed
Okay,
placement
Yep.
type situations.
Okay.
And that keeps crawling.
yeah,
It's not the biggest, I mean, it's a lot of money.
yeah,
And in most conversations, it's a lot of money, right? But it's kind of like utilities. You spend what you have to.
right.
So we usually budget an upward trend on that because whoever you're paying to provide the services, they have the same employee costs as
Right.
we do.
Most
It just
definitely.
comes in the form of a tuition bill. Oh, yeah, and our
Oh,
4K.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Anything else? All righty. Anything on the budget calendar? Okay. All right, Darren. Next up, under discussion items, is the tax incremental financing for the town of Waukesha Tax Incremental District number 1. Who's taking that over?
I am I was appointed the representative to the town joint review board. And unlike some which are pretty straightforward, this one has the potential to be somewhat contentious. I do know, you've probably received correspondence from the mayor that the city is not in favor of this because of the potential to block annexation where annexation makes sense. I also was aware of some of the people, at the one meeting I did go to, people from the town also had a number of questions and issues on it. So I think it's appropriate we, as a committee, look at this. I don't know when the planned vote is on this. I believe it has to be before December. No, okay.
My understanding is relatively within the next month or two.
Yeah, and so, and, because the law changes, and once they do that, once they have a TIF district, they can incorporate, and then that effectively blocks future annexation. So, I'm not, I mean, I've done a number of TIF review boards, and typically there has to be, or there normally is a business motive on this to increase the value of the property, which in turn increases the value of taxes, then also drives economic development. I don't know how much of that is in this particular plan. You see the map here. A portion of that is, one portion in the yellow, that's residential. I don't know what the plan is there, if they're going to rezone that to commercial. And then the other pieces of that along Sunset, I believe, are already developed. In the red,
Looks like
well
it.
as
Yeah,
as
that's all,
purple.
that's all developed.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Master
Bliffert's
Majority.
over there. Bliffert's along the train tracks.
yeah.
So attached in your packet, you have the maps and then the handout from Trilogy on page 6, consulting, which is the town's information, and then the mayor's letters at the back, just so you know what's in your packet.
I had a couple comments if we have.
Yes, correct.
Okay, well, you guys, I did,
Comment
thank you,
away.
Thank you, Dr. Ray. I did read the project plan provided by Trilogy. I did read the mayor's memorandum. I appreciate both of them. I am not an expert in TIDs or TIFs, but I've read so much about them the last 2.5 years that I feel like I can pretend to be one.
That's what the consultants do, too.
Yeah, they get paid. I don't. The problem I see with this is when I ask the why question as to
Sorry.
why. It just doesn't pass muster. So I'm not going to pick sides, but the mayor's memorandum points out a lot of good things. On a legal side, the but-for test, but for this TIF and TID being granted, would this development happen in this area, I don't know what development they're talking about. There's one vacant property, I believe. There's some talk that changing Industrial Drive and put some curbing will cause, I think, Blifford lumber to triple in value. In my profession, when I read this, even without even seeing the mayor's memorandum behind that, they spoke in conclusions. There's just so much unknown. So if I would suggest anything respectfully to you, Dr. Gray, is if I was in your shoes, I'd rely heavily on the last paragraph of the mayor's memorandum, where it says at a very minimum.
Well, I'm
decision
hoping
until-
to eventually either take a committee vote or a committee recommendation. So I'm just a representative of this particular body, so, just like when we were looking at the city's TIF that potentially included the baseball field, same thing. I think Mr. Como was the representative, and it never got to a vote, but I mean, he was going forth with a recommendation of the entire committee.
Okay, I didn't know if there was independent.
Yeah,
I mean, that TIF with the ballpark there was blighted property. This is a huge new development. This is bringing, I think, what TIFs are supposed to do. Enable development in an area that otherwise would not, but for the TIF, have this development. This doesn't have the markers of any of that. And my role sitting on this board is for the school district. So I asked a question to quite a few different people. I said, how does this in any way, shape, or form benefit the school district of Waukesha? I couldn't think of anything, and the people I asked couldn't think of anything. Even for me to reach that conclusion, I just don't have enough to look at this plan and say, yeah, these are not just speaking in conclusions. This is a definitive plan on what will be developed, what will be changed, what will be improved, and what benefit will it bring to the city. If the city is doing well, the school district does well. If the school district's doing well, the city's going to do well. So it's interchangeable. And it's not our only city or our only municipality. There's way too many red flags, in my opinion, and I'm just one of many, to suggest that this is a good idea. That's all.
Yeah, one of the things that Todd and I talked about was whether this committee would want the town to come in and, like, for the TIF 14, the baseball conversation, I think it was 14, we had, Kevin and.
26.
Yeah.
Well, there were couple variations.
But
There
we
was an
had-
amendment to 14 and then.
We had Kevin Lehner come in, we had Brian running come, I believe Brian was here, just to kind of walk us through the pieces, and we can do that with the town. If you feel you need more information, we could have, the mayor's a resident, he can come talk at a meeting anytime he wants during citizens' comments. But to provide you more if you want, or if you feel we can get some sort of consensus and guidance for Dr. Gray just on what you have, because there's been one meeting.
And I don't even know how it's being viewed in the town itself with the citizens, and I just don't know where that's going. I am aware that there's a few developers who own land in the town who appear to be opposed to it for obvious reasons. But, again, I think the purpose of the TIF is to drive economic development, and it looks like, I don't know how much is coming out of that. It appears the real purpose may be to create the block to future annexation, incorporation, and then blocking future annexation. The town of Brookfield did it with
Corners.
corners.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Have the,
but again, that was before the corners was developed. So I mean, even though they had
that
a
was right.
TIF and incorporated, they still had a tremendous amount of economic development,
Right. I
and
think,
they're still growing that area too.
yeah, I agree with your first comment and your latter comment. I think this is just a pretext to block annexation from the city. My role on this board, I don't really care, but I just don't see how it benefits the school district. And it's just my points are already said. As far as hearing from the town, absolutely, I'd love to hear from them. I can't imagine what they would present that's not inside or included in their project plan, but perhaps there's something there.
Yeah. I'd like to hear from them too. I know there's some agreement with that island project about annexation.
Yeah.
Sure. And I know that they've always wanted to, they have some sort of ordinance with houses that are on Sunset in that, if you have if it's a brick house, you can turn it into a business. If it's not, you can't. They have all kinds of weird stuff like that, which is, what they used to do back in the day instead of, making it tater a tiff. But I know they have some weird stuff like that, Sunset was always going to be their deal in the town, but
The assessed values of those residences are, 2.8 million? And I think the money available for fixing it, I don't know the right term, is like 1.8. So the numbers
it's a
on itself
relatively
doesn't make any
small
sense.
amount.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. And the town doesn't have the ability to rezone that. Likewise, and I think the city has been steadfast, at least in their statements, that they're not going to connect sewer. And I think that the but-for test and the refusal by the city to connect sewer, I think it's sewer or water, I think it's dead in the water regardless, but.
It's both.
It's
It's both, okay.
A lot of it's already hooked up, though.
Okay. That's right, but,
A lot of it, and especially in the island projects, already hooked up.
right,
Tallinger's hooked up.
right.
All Seasons is hooked up. Lifford's hooked up.
But then the use, even if they're going to convert that
Yep.
to, and the use is not, as the city
How does that
agreed.
work with the water agreement? Is everybody who's hooked up?
Are they hooked up?
Oh, yeah, there's a ton of them in that
yeah.
island project that are hooked up. If they're already hooked up, when that water agreement went through with Milwaukee, they're in, right?
I would make
I
that
believe-
assumption.
I would make that assumption too, but
I'm not a water agreement expert though either.
Do we have access to ask the mayor questions? Is that,
It's
you have
It's up to
access
the
do
chair.
whatever, yeah.
the chair's
100%.
prerogative.
I mean, would you have some insight, Mayor, to that, or, and why don't you come on forward and turn the mic on?
It's on.
Sure. Sean Riley, Mayor City of Waukesha. I think your question is whether water service can be provided under the compact in the portions of the town. The answer is yes, under the terms of the compact. What was approved is all the town islands could be served with water. That doesn't mean that we will serve all the town islands with water. It's up to us. There is some water service. There's water service in a large portion of the area that's in the TIF. However, if they change the use, then the question as to whether we provide sewer and water for that is up to the city. That doesn't mean that they can use as much water and if the sewer pipes have to be upsized and stuff like that.
Right.
We don't know what they even are planning to do. You read their proposal and you have no idea what's going to be built there. And generally, as you have reviewed the TIFs for the city and reviewed them carefully, you know what we're going to do. In this case, you have no idea what's even being proposed.
Yeah, I would agree. And Corey, you said it was vague. You hit it right on the head. And I have been a representative for the last 5 or 6 years. The only detail I see is on page 14, and that's not very much detail.
Yeah, that's the only thing we've seen.
There are no projects, as far as I can tell, that are driving this. And so I would have to conclude that the primary driving factor is for the town to incorporate. And, without truly understanding what projects are occurring, and as you know, Mr. Mayor, you would come to us with a set of these are the businesses that want to come here or expand here or improve upon, and there's a great amount of detail, not just financial detail, but we'd have a lot of discussion on a great amount of details or other factors as to why they want to do this and the purpose, and we can see who those businesses are and come to some sort of conclusion as to whether or not there would be benefit. But we really don't know what these projects are going to be. This is like kind of a wishful. This is probably what this will look like. And there's no business. And Dr. Gray, you mentioned in the beginning, you don't see any businesses driving this. So I don't know how we even have enough information to make a decision. So, as you move forward, Dr. Gray, my suggestion is we need a whole heck of a lot more detail. If you were to take a look at the corners, that took a couple of years to develop. Dan Warren started out being our representative. He had retired. I took over, and Todd had some interim aspects, I think, in there. And, we really needed to understand what was going to happen at the corners before we could provide an answer as to whether or not that made sense for us as a school district to be able to vote yes or no to it. And we just don't have, we don't have the details to make a decision as far as I'm concerned.
I'm assuming you'd like to see someone potentially from Trilogy and then a representative of the town?
And actually, I think they need to just develop this further before they even come and visit. I don't think, if there are more details, why wouldn't they have shared it in the beginning? So I don't think they exist. I think these are the details.
It could be.
And
Then we'll know.
Yeah, then we'll know.
So, for me at least, I need to have a better understanding of what's going to happen here.
For sure.
Yeah, if we had to choose between Trilogy and the town members, which I hopefully don't have to choose, I'd much rather have a town representative to answer questions
Yeah, I would too.
as to why. I mean, the why questions are the biggest ones. Why? And I don't think Trilogy can answer that, but yeah.
Right.
So I'll invite a town representative to the December meeting and ask also that they not proceed with any sort of approval until we've received more information. Does that sound?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me speak.
You. Anything else? Okay. Other business. Recommendations for future committee meetings. Anybody? Have any recommendations can email myself and Darren, and we will make sure they're on the agenda. Excellent. Okay. That being done, we have need of a closed session.
Shouldn't take long, but
Yeah, it won't be done. I do have some questions, though. So, looking for a motion?
So moved.
Got to read.
I think you got to read it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will move to,
Bottom of the agenda.
thank you. Move to adjourn to executive session pursuant to WISTATS 19.85 sub 1E for deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session.
And you can say what.
And I can. It's regarding the Les Paul parking solution.
Is there a second? Is that roll call? Roll call.
Mr. Montiel?
Here.
Brian Check?
Aye.
Mr. McCaffrey?
Aye.
Mr. Como?
Aye.
Ms. Voigt?
Aye.
I meant aye. Sorry.
Darren
A long week.
translated.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
here.
It's only Tuesday.
We've all done that, Corey, actually.
All right.
Still here.
Like,
Okay, you can shut the door. Yeah, you can,